Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Do you want the secret to success? Our guest, Chris Cicchinelli, says the secret is you. Chris, thanks for being with us today.
Bill, thanks so much for having me. Super excited about this, man.
Now, well, I'm even more excited because you've done a great job with your company and we want to find out your secrets. But The Secret is You is actually the name of your book. Am I correct?
Yeah, The Secret is You is the name of the book. And, everybody kept asking me for the last 21 years, what do I need to do to be successful? And basically, it's very simple. I said, the secret's you. And so I wrote a book coming, through COVID. And it was one of these books that I sat back and took 21 years of experiences working with 250,000 small businesses. And I put basically a blueprint on what people needed to be doing if they're thinking about side hustle or they're thinking about starting their own business.
And I'll tell you, when I started looking at your book, as soon as I saw it, I got excited. And I get a ton of books in the mail, as every radio host, TV host does. But this was one that's perfect for our show because it's bringing out the elements that we want our audience to know. And especially during difficult times, which we're all going through, it gives us, I think, all hope. I'd like to start out with your background because you're a little unusual and a little atypical compared to our weekly guests, who are usually someone at Harvard who's writing their thesis, their paper, and next week they're designing a rocket for outer space. So tell us your background.
Well, Bill, first of all, I thought you might like the cover because it had a mirror on the front and, you could look at yourself getting ready in the morning or anything else like that. No, I would say that the whole thing around the book and the reason that I wrote it and give you a little background. I was a kid, grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, played football at a school called Moeller here in Cincinnati, ended up going to Mount Union College, playing football up at Mount Union College, which was fantastic. Left there. My mom had actually started this business in the basement of our house in 1993. And we sell beauty, we sell bath, we also sell intimacy products, right? So here I am, senior in high school. My mom starts this business in the basement of our house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's selling relationship enhancement items. And I couldn't get any further from that than I had to because I was like embarrassed. You're a kid in high school. I barely got through, went up to get out and started having my first job out of college at a publicly traded company in Atlanta, Georgia called the Maxim Group. It was great. It was a floor covering outlet. It was fantastic. Had a great experience there. But then in 2000, I had moved up pretty drastically with the company. I was in charge of merchandising, in charge of marketing. I was running a $29 million region for them. And my mom comes back and says, hey, I want you to help scale my business. I want you to take that marketing degree and the merchandising that you've been able to do. And I want to grow this thing. So here I am at the age of 25, and she asked me to come back to Cincinnati, Ohio. And I ended up coming back and helping her grow a business. The business that we have, it's again, pure romance. We have 41,000 women that are out there that are ambassadors that are selling beauty. They're selling bath. They're selling relationship enhancement, and having to teach them on how to sell the product, sell themselves. We were able to go from $1 million to $4 million in our first year, 4 to 8 in the second year, 8 to 16, 16 to 32. And now we have a company that does, over $350 million a year. And it's really teaching people how to run a small business. And that's what my background was really working in businesses and growing them and developing. But my mom and I spent 3 years in a U-Haul in 2000 to 2001, 2002, and 2003, only coming home Thanksgiving and Christmas. So you can only imagine spending 3 years in a U-Haul with your mother, the therapy bills that I still have from that. And that's why I wrote this book.
You seem like a pretty happy, normal guy compared to that, because even the best of relationships, spending that much time together is very difficult. But one thing, and to show you I read your book, you left your previous job to drop down in salary to something like $22,000 or $24,000 to work with your mother. And I have to say, I don't think I love my mother and family members, but that's I wouldn't say a jump, because a jump is usually forward. That seems like a reversal. So
it was a major reversal. And I really remember I was making six figures in Atlanta. And then she goes like, hey, listen, come back. And I got this. And I remember her putting me the guilt trip. She's the better salesperson. I always tell her that you can sell ice to Eskimos. You were like a great salesperson and amazing. But I did come back. I took a chance. And I think a lot of small business owners, out there are people that are starting stuff. They don't look for the opportunities around them. They might have to take a step back before they actually move 10 steps forward. And that's exactly what I did. It was probably at the time the dumbest decision I made, but in the long term, one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Now, another reason why you're so impressive, at least to me, and I think our audience is going to love this, you have a home-based business. People have parties. Am I right? More or less, like we know sometime a neighbor will invite us over, etc. And yet, we've all gone through this pandemic for the last, I'm going to say probably a little more than a year, et cetera. And maybe it drags on even a little into the future. And yet you have increased business over this time.
Yes.
Wow, this is amazing.
Well, look, here's the thing. I think words like pivot are overused. I think, we had to pivot though. And the biggest thing is in March, when everything was shutting down, our entire business model was inside of somebody's home, right? You get 10 people together, they're coming, they're doing a presentation, they get to order, take home their products that night. That's how quickly a party can happen or an event can happen. And so, we had to actually go on and tell our sales force, hey, you need to start doing online parties. I remember when I told them that, hey, listen, you need to go and you need to download Zoom. They were like, can I buy that at Costco? Do I get that at Target? I mean, a lot of people had
sounds like me. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody knew what Zoom was or how they were going to start selling on Facebook. And what I told them is this, most people have the fears, right? And the fears are anything that they have to change to. Change is inevitable, right? We're all going to have change. We changed last year. Hopefully, most of us changed for the better, right? I don't want anybody to go back to normal. I'm hoping everybody goes back to better. We figure this out. I know my company, we had a 60% increase last year. We had a 60% increase because what we have taught our people is that change is going to happen. How do you grow from it? How do you make sure that you're learning that you can do a new skill? If it's doing online parties on Zoom, if it's doing online parties on Facebook, how do you connect differently? Because we have to understand people get paralyzed when growth happens. People get paralyzed when change happens. And so what we talked about is that you can either let the change propel you or paralyze you. And it didn't for us, because what I have taught our sales force and taught our people, and it's in the book, is that in life, there are going to be some curveballs that you're going to get. Not everything is going to be rosy. 15% of our life, things are out of our control. And I know that it's probably even more through COVID last year, but I always plan that there's 365 days a year, 50 to 60 days of that, you're going to have something that you didn't expect. A tire is going to blow out. You're going to have a bill that was unexpected. Your washer and dryer is going to go. You're going to lose an income that you thought was supposed to be coming in. And if you don't plan for that stuff, it can really do damage in the psyche of a business owner. And so that is one of the things I told them. They have to always be ready for those things that are to come up. We as business owners have to live in this hurdle, this area of comfort versus uncomfortability. And I think if you want to live comfortable in your life, you've got to understand that you're going to have 1 foot in uncomfortable zone and 1 foot in the comfortable part. That's what we have to tell business owners. I never want a business owner to get too comfortable, because what they do is they get complacent. They start getting lazy. And if they start getting lazy, they stop doing the processes that are going to get them or had gotten them to the success that they had once before.
That's so great. And I love the saying that we have to anticipate it. I think you use the number 15% of life will always be something unanticipated.
Yeah.
And just as you mentioned, I was trying to think, I had the dog to the vet last week. I had the exterminator here and the plumber because something was leaking. So I think I can well cover the 15%. I might excel on that number and even go beyond it. Obviously you're an athlete, and you mentioned that you see yourself more as a head coach rather than, most people love the title CEO, and they can, that's extremely impressive. But you think of yourself more as a head coach. Why do you say that?
Because I think being the head coach is important. One, I went to college. I wanted to be a coach, right? That's what I went. I played football at Mount Union College. If you guys know where that is, that's up in Northeastern Ohio division.
They win every year, don't they?
Every
They
year.
win the championship?
Every year. But here's the thing. What we talk about up there and what the greatest teams talk about is you got to commit to the process detach from the outcome. What I learned at Mount Union, I played at Moeller. Moeller's a powerhouse here in Cincinnati, high school football. You got Barry Larkin that went there, Ken Griffey Jr. And the same things that we learned there was, how do you take the processes, right? And how do you detach from the outcome? And that's exactly what I look at myself as the CEO. My job is to set up the proper processes and also coach to those. What I found is most business owners think that they can make people do stuff. CEOs think that they can, because they have the title, they can make people do stuff. Coaches and CEOs have to have this mindset where we have to make people think. We have to put the whys behind it, but we have to be like Socrates. I can't make people do anything, but I can always make them think about how they could do something better or how they might attack a situation differently. But once we get them to that mindset that says, okay, yeah, you're right, I can do this differently. Once I get there, I need to start doing the processes. If you want to be a great hitter, you're going to work in the cage as much as you possibly can. If you want to be a great free throw shooter, you're going to have to commit to shooting free throws. Repetition is the mother of learning. It's the father of action. It's the architect of accomplishment. And I think they're coaching and working with business owners. We have to teach those fundamentals, commitment to the process. Repetition is going to be there. But most people don't like it because it's boring, right? It's like, I don't get the applause when I get, when I do a party or I make that big sale. Everybody's so excited for me. But when I'm cold calling, I'm sending emails, I'm sending text messages, there's nobody cheering for me. There's nobody excited for me. So I really transition a salesperson or CEO's mindset or business owner's mindset that all the money comes from when people aren't cheering for you. The hard work that you put in will be the outcome that you're going to get. And that's where you're going to have the people going, oh my gosh, you're amazing. You're an awesome. Thanks so much for giving me this information. Thanks for being part of my life. That's all done when you commit to a process. And that's why I look at myself as a coach more than I look at myself as a CEO.
Chris, we want to learn more from you, but at this point in the show, we want our listeners to know that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Our guest today is Chris Cicchinelli. He is the CEO of Pure Romance and the author of The Secret Is You. Chris, would you tell us where we can get the book and how we can learn more about you and your company?
Oh, you can get the book at secretisyou.com, secretisyou.com, or you could go to Amazon and download it there as well, or purchase it there. Also, you could go to pureromance.com, find out any information that you want to find out about me and my company. And also, book is available there.
And we'll ask you that information again later on. I'll tell our audience, this book checks all the boxes that we usually like. It's an easy read. It's inspirational. And as you're very willing to tell your story and kind of some of the negatives in your life, everything wasn't always easy. And yet you've got this company up to $350 million from basically kind of what was in the garage type company, let's call it, relatively small, a few employees, a happy company, but you've taken it to new levels. So I think we want to listen to your advice. You mentioned in the book about being proactive, not reactive. Is that in general one of our problems? Do we all just go through life reacting?
I think everybody goes through reacting. We work when we need money. We eat when we're hungry. We do the work when it's necessary. I think most people just do the work just not to get fired, right? Like they do just enough not to get fired. I think there's too many people that are not proactive when it comes to looking for business, when it comes to, thinking about saving for the retirement, thinking about putting money away. We all become reactive. We're like, oh, we'll get to that when. We'll get to that next year. We'll get to that, we even do that. We're not even proactive with our happiness. We move the goalposts of happiness all the time. Like, I don't meet a lot of happy people because they're always like, once they achieve happy, they keep moving the goalposts. They're like, I'll be happy when. We're even procrastinating on that piece. I think in life, all of us have to look at life a little bit differently. And if we want more from it, then we need to make sure we're becoming students of whatever craft, whatever game that we're playing. Don't be that person that sits back and waits, right? And I tell business owners, especially because I work with, like I said, I work with women business owners, 250,000 of them I've worked for, and giving them advice, helping them grow their business. And what I will find is they will say this to me, once the kids get done, I'll put more attention to it. Or once I get, time, I will, focus a little bit more my efforts and my things. No, don't put yourself last. That's the one thing I can tell you. People put themselves last. They procrastinate to make themselves happy. And if you can't make you happy, I will promise you this. You're not making yourself happy. You're not going to make anybody else happy. You got to love yourself to share love with other people. You got to like yourself first so you can like other people. And I think you can't wait. You can't procrastinate on your happiness. You can't procrastinate on your success. it's got to be like we're one. I don't believe in this life of balance. I believe in this role that we have in life. When you're mom, be a great mom. When you're a business owner, be a great business owner. When you're a philanthropist, be a great philanthropist. When you're in a relationship, be the great significant other that you possibly can. But don't try to think that there's balance out there. There's just work-life harmony. How do you actually make it all work together?
Chris, there was a throwaway line that I read in your book, and you were talking about your mom, and yet I thought it's so important, and it may be something you want to bring up to future people joining your company. You mentioned your mom was working for, I guess, another who would be today a competitor. I think you actually bought them out. But one of the things you noticed about her, she was making money, and she had a lot of self-esteem because she was really enjoying what she was doing. She was blossoming. Now, people can make money anywhere from a few dollars an hour to lawyers and doctors, $300, $400, $500, maybe thousands of dollars an hour, depending on their, income status. But talk about that, because I think this is a chance for people to come out of their shell, and they might be natural teachers, natural salespeople, natural leaders, and they're making money at the same time, which is what most people want to whatever degree. Maybe it's not as much as the CEO makes or the top salespeople, but they're obviously doing well. Can you talk about that aspect?
Yeah, I think that is a very good point. And if you really, take a look at the underlying message of the book, that's why I say the secret is you, right? I also look at this as that every one of us that are listening out there can design our own lives, right? Design our bathrooms. We design our bedrooms, we design our kitchens, we design all these other things. Heck, we're building cars now online, right? And we design all these pieces. But the one thing people don't do is they don't design their own lives, right? Nobody is designing their future. I think that every time I meet somebody, every time I look at a new business opportunity, every time that I read something, or even today, but I'll take something, and this will be kind of I'll look at it as almost my Pinterest board. People have lost creativity of what it is that they can go out there and do. The other thing too is people are afraid of failure. They're afraid. They're afraid of like stepping outside the box. What I will tell you is that there's only two fears that we are born with: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Everything else is false evidence appearing real, right? Like we've got to forget everything and rise. And that's why I use fear a different way. I don't think you should be fearing to do something new. I think that that's the fun part about our lives, is that we get to try, we get to fail. And the more we fail at something, the more we learn. And the more we learn, the more we grow. I know that sounds kind of, people are like listening going, is that really true? Yes. I mean, I've worked with 250,000 businesses. Trust me. Every one of them that I've worked with, and I'm not a Harvard background. I do not have. I'm a kid that has street smarts, that was able to grow a business. I knew how to network with people. I knew how to take a lot of chances and take a lot of risks. I'd be the kid that was like the guy that was in Rounders, right? I'm going to put it all in black. Let's go, right? That was kind of how I operated. So I did fail a lot. I failed more frequently than I actually succeeded. But the successes that I got were home runs because I was willing to do something and not be afraid of it. Not like I wasn't afraid of failing, and I wasn't afraid of trying something new. My mom, same way. Like she found that she had to go there because she found it out of desperation. That's where most people make their decisions, is they make it out of desperation. My mom was working for 4 pediatricians, making $4.25 an hour. She's like, look, I got to put food on the table for these kids. So through that desperation, that catapulted her to find her passion. And once she found her passion, it was like, whoa, that's right. All the stuff I've ever heard, I can design my own life. I can have what I want. And by the way, I deserve it too.
And, that to me, I think is such an important part. We all want to make some money, but at a certain point, we can be happy. We don't need the most expensive car, watch, or vacation spot. But if you enjoy what you do all day, you seem like someone, and just listening to you, you have me motivated. You seem like someone who honestly enjoys what they do. I certainly enjoyed reading your book. So that's another aspect of your life. I hope you come out with another book and we can have you on again next year. But just that someone, and especially maybe women who, like you say, your mom, making $4.25. I won't ask her income now, but I'm sure it's up there. And now she's probably paying more than that to her accountant for 5 minutes worth of work than she ever expected in her life. And she has the pleasure of working with her family, which in the end, even though it might be stressful at times, has to be great. You mentioned people put labels on themselves. When you meet new people, new possible reps coming in and part of your business, what are the labels that you find that are negative and hurt them?
I think what we find is we have more negative in our body than we do positive. And I think the biggest area I see is self-talk, right? A lot of women business owners are very hard on themselves. They have an easier time beating themselves up than they will somebody else. So I would say the biggest area that I run into is the confidence, right? And I think that's really what, when I look at The Secret Is You, if you're able to go out there and have positive self-talk, you're able to get yourself in a good routine. Most people that I meet don't even have a routine. They let the day dictate what their routine is going to be. Want to be successful out there? You got to have that. You also got to understand that you got to commit to the processes that are going to get you to the next level. Even if you're trying to get that promotion at your job, even if you want to be the best teacher that's out there and teaching awesome around school, you have to understand that you got to build that self-confidence. People can see that when you walk in a room. 55% of how we communicate with people is our body language. I mean, it's am I walking in? Am I not confident? Or are my shoulders back? How am I speaking? 38% is our tone, right? How I pause, how I speak, how I'm excited about talking to you, Bill, because this is fun. This is my passion. This is what I love to do.
And I'm enjoying it
but
and learning.
And 7% of what we speak, 7% of how we communicate is our words. And what I hear most coming out of people's mouth is, I don't know, maybe, I can't. We've got to understand we have to be positive. Our words are only 7% of how we communicate. So they need to be powerful. They need to be well thought out. And we need to understand, we need to start talking to ourselves. What we say to ourselves is what we become. And that's where I work with women business owners are probably the hardest on themselves. They will stand in a mirror and pick themselves apart about how they look, how they feel. My business isn't successful because they do the worst thing ever. They go to Facebook and they go to Insta-Lie. And what they do is they start comparing themselves to other people, their business, how they look, how they dress. And what happens is they have this low self-esteem. They have the low confidence that goes with it. And that's what I see a lot of people that we have to kind of rebuild in them and tell them that they are good enough, that they do deserve, and they can design their own life. That's what we work on the most here at Pure Romance.
Chris, once again, at this point in the show, and I'm going to tell our audience, if you don't have a pencil and paper handy, get it out. But at this point, I'd like to let our audience know that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Chris Cicchinelli. He's the author of The Secret Is You, and perhaps more impressive, he is the CEO of Pure Romance. He's telling us some of the lessons he's learned, what he teaches his members and teammates, employees. I'm not sure which term you use in your business, but Chris, also please tell us where we can get the book, The Secret Is You, and where we can learn more, or website.
The more about The Secret Is You can get the book at secretisyou.com, and you could go to pureromance.com. You can learn more information about the company, about what we do, and the 250,000 plus people that have had their business with us.
Chris, one of the topics throughout your book, you say you can turn negatives into assets. And just to, again, go back to your life, if our audience didn't hear at the beginning of the book, you suffered from dyslexia. I think you graduated at the bottom of one of your classes. I don't know if it was grammar school or high school. And I mean, when you talk about working your way up, you truthfully did. And it's been a pleasure. I'm listening to you today, how well spoken. You didn't stumble once. You certainly know your business. But talk about changing that negative into assets, because I think a lot of us look at ourselves that way. I'm not tall enough, pretty, I'm fat, I'm overweight, I'm poor, whatever.
You know, it's so funny. I used that in the book, and I was really vulnerable about talking about that because, you know, nobody wants to talk about that they failed fourth grade. I mean, like, you know, I truly failed. People are like, you got held back. No, I failed. I literally had dyslexia so bad. I didn't understand what I had at the time. I didn't pick up that I had dyslexia until I was actually a senior in college, and I was trying to get, you know, into play football at, you know, more MAC level schools. And that's where I really found out. But I used that fuel every day, the fuel that I had something to prove. Some people would call it a chip on your shoulder. And I did. I had that. I admit that. I think that most people don't use their negatives or use some of the things that happened to them as fuel. Like my teachers at high school, you know, were the ones that told me, man, you need to find something that is, you know, more that you could do outside, more that you could do, you know, maybe a trade school, maybe something else. But that was what I didn't want to do that. And I can't believe they would put that label on me or tell me I could, what I needed to do. I needed to figure out that for myself, what I wanted to do. That's why I wanted to be a football coach until I was like, hey, maybe I do want to go out there and make some extra money. I grew up with not very much money. I looked at myself and saying, if I could coach football, why couldn't I run a company, right? I thought it was very similar. And what I do today is I feel like I'm coaching, I'm teaching, and I'm helping people develop. And I get a lot of joy out of that. But if I would have listened to the people telling me what I should or shouldn't do, if I would have let those put the labels on me and I didn't use that failure to fuel me, it could have been a very different story. And I work a lot with small businesses about you need to use these things, the labels, the fears, the things that people say, and use it not in a bad way. Don't get mad about it. Don't get angry with them. Don't Facebook fight with them, but make it the logs inside of you that make you burn, make you get up in the morning early, make you stay up and do the things that nobody else is doing. Have that uncomfortable life so you and your family can live comfortable. Use it as your fuel. Don't use it as something that's going to build hate and anger and everything else like that. Use it as something that it can give you some joy, some abundance, and a fruitful future.
I'm sitting here and I'm an old guy, but I want to play on your football team because you've got me motivated. And it might be a short pass because I can't run too far, but I'll get out there and try to catch it for you. I read in your book that you tell people that you must work on your business and in your business. What does that mean?
I think you got to work on your business, which is, where a lot of people don't think about strategy. They don't think about what the future is going to look like. I really work with the business owners. I'm thinking about what is their 90-day plan? What is their 6-month plan? When you're working on your business, you're thinking about new techniques of how to sell, maybe different experiences that you can create for your customers. When you're working in the business, not on the business, in the business, this is when you're working in. You're doing your follow-up calls. You're making money through follow-up orders. You're making the sale happen. You're doing the events. That's working in the business. On the business is where I see most people don't. They just like to do it when there's applause or there's money or there's commerce transactions that are coming from it. On the business is where it's going to be in the future. Different ideas to make sure that the people that I service today are going to be with me tomorrow. So I always look at somebody and say, what's the LTV that you're playing for, which is the lifetime value? I want to make sure that you are always changing up your offer. You're always making it a different and a more creative experience for your guests, for the people that you're going to be doing parties for, events for, selling to. And therefore, I use it a lot in that way. Work on the business is for your future. Work in the business is the immediate.
And Chris, in the last 30 seconds, tell us, you're looking at someone and you're looking at, I think you said you have 41,000 reps or employees. I may have the wrong term. What separates that top 20% from that bottom 40%?
Desperation. Desperation. The people that are the most desperate to succeed, desperate to change their life, desperate to go out there and prove people wrong. What I will tell you is desperation is the catalyst that I see a lot of the time of the successful people. They have that chip. They have that, I'm going to prove somebody wrong. I want a better lifestyle for me, for my family. That's what I will tell you. People always ask that same question. It's so easy when I see somebody that's so hungry for this change, this betterment. And I would say desperation is the biggest thing I see that fuels the 20% difference from the 80%.
So those of us who might be feeling badly now, either we lost our job, we got cut back, downside, whatever the terms might be because of the pandemic or various other reasons, changes in society, maybe that desperation can be the impetus to a great new future with your group. Chris, I want to thank you for being with us today. I want to remind our audience, The Secret Is You is the book by our guest, Chris Cicchinelli. Chris, once again, would you give us the website and where we can get the book? Yeah,
the website is secretisyou.com. You could go ahead and get that. You could get it at Amazon as well, or you could go to pureromance.com.
Either way, easy to remember. And remember, The Secret Is You. And Chris is telling you, and especially if you're desperate, if you're having difficulties, this might be that perfect time to make a change in life. And certainly get hold of the book and get some good advice from someone who knows what they're talking about. Chris, thanks for being with us. I'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. We ask you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.